Hello, gorgeous, powerful listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Powerful Inc. Startup Stories podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Jill McCarthy, who is the CEO and founder of the Geeky Grandma with an Encouraging Nudge. So that is the name of her podcast, and how she's positioning her business these days. And Jill is in the retirement years of her life, after having raised 4 boys, which, oh my goodness, kudos to you. That must have been quite an adventure. And is now wanting to use the wisdom of lessons learned in life, of lived experience, to help others feel empowered and in love with themselves, and kind of find their way as soon as possible, I think would be fair to say. Is that right, Jill?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that they live every minute that they have.
Live every minute that they have. That is just beautiful. So welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat with you. Women empowerment, I'm raising daughters, so it's really close to my heart to make sure, but to be an example of and participate in circles of taking care of the next generations and taking care of ourselves as we go.
And I just would like to applaud that. You don't know how many older women have wounds because previous generations didn't know how to do that. And each generation comes for a certain reason. And I just thank you for making the lives of these young ladies that much easier and to start that much earlier. Thank you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you for acknowledging that. Yes. And so everybody hear that. Everybody hear that. The work that you're doing, I'm already getting emotional. The work that you're doing on yourself serves your children and or the next generation, which then serves the world. And so you can feel isolated and lonely and uncertain of how that journey is going, of how your healing and expansion journey is going. But like ripples in a pond, it is having impact. It is changing energetic vibration. So hang in there, sister, because we've got you and you've got this.
And I actually use that picture of ripples in the pond
Oh
to
my God.
demonstrate legacy. And that's what it's about. The world should be different because you lived and what you've done, and that goes out. And you're right, it does. It keeps rippling out.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily in some Oprah way. It could be as a result of something as simple as an interaction with the young grocery store clerk. One time, something that you say, some wisdom that you impart, or just an exchange that happens in a kismet moment for that person for where they are in their journey, which is why it's important to show up and offer what you have. So Jill, take us through how you came to founding the Geeky Grandma and how the business has changed from what you thought it would be to what it is now and becoming.
Okay, well, I'm going to start back a little earlier than what we were talking earlier. I began as an elementary teacher, and and I have 4 sons and I have 3 brothers, so I have an ache in my heart for women. And just to be around women, because women need that. But my story, I started as an elementary teacher, and about 10 years in, I realized my heart wasn't with it. And I realized that in school I could teach Christmas around the world for every other Christmas except the one I lived in my own house. And I missed that faith element. So I started looking around, and I ended up doing retreats at my local church. And I ended up doing a series of about 10 retreats and found that I absolutely loved working with other women. I loved the retreat setting. My teacher training gave me the organization skills that I needed for a retreat. You talked about your natural gift. That's my natural gift. I don't have to think about it. I literally woke up one morning with the idea, complete with a 3-page brochure booklet for it.
Oh my gosh,
And
amazing.
And a lot of girls these days, if one job doesn't work, they just jump to a new one. Well, I
Right.
wasn't privileged to that choice.
Hmm.
I made the choice to stick to it till I got a pension to work with when I
Okay.
retired.
Yeah.
But I retired as soon as I could.
Hmm.
And then I started dabbling with things that I really enjoy. Like I enjoy art with a digital twist to it. I work on a graphic novel that I'm
Oh,
growing that's
fun.
for grandmas to read to granddaughters.
Oh my
Most
God.
graphic novels are for little boys.
Hmm.
And I could go into a whole story on that, but I'll spare you.
Hmm.
But and I kept going. And when I was doing the retreats before, I had a captive audience of a particular church congregation. Well,
Hmm.
now I was out in the whole world and
Right.
trying to establish an online business. So it took me a while to build up a crew and an audience and all of that. But after about 5 years, then I started back into the retreats, but this time at the local camp. The background you see behind me is for
Hmm.
our family camp. And
Hmm.
they're very private, small, intimate retreats. And uh, it's just a deep. I run a 25-hour retreat. We come at
Okay.
supper and leave just after supper,
Okay.
and that's a nice. And I've got a good foundation wherever I go. I have very loyal people behind me. My women's group, my
Wow.
retreat people, and as I've worked with this online space, my retreats are coming back, and that's a good thing. But I thought I'd be a coach,
Hmm.
but I've only mentored a couple of people. But what is working is my podcast, the
Hmm.
Geeky Grandma with an encouraging nudge.
Hmm.
And what happened is one day I was trying to find a mentee to work with, and I was talking to a young lady who was kind of hurting. And after about, I called her, and her name was, let's say, Mary Jane. And I
Hmm.
called her Mary Jane. I didn't just say, hey, Mary. And she
Hmm.
says, that sounds like what my grandma used to call me. So I thought, well, I am a grandma. Why not
Hmm.
go for it? And I'm
Hmm.
kind of techie, so that's where the geeky comes from.
Okay.
That's very unusual for somebody in my age bracket, but I love it, and I can't wait to get new equipment and whatever. I really do. And I asked my women's group, what do I do? And they says, well, you encourage us. It's not a
Mm.
huge thing, but a constant little encouragement. But I also realize there's a little bit of a bite to it,
Mhm.
because your grandma wouldn't let you,
Mhm.
although she'd spoil you to death, she
Mhm.
wouldn't let you get away with something you knew better than. And she'd
Mhm.
give you that little push that you almost didn't even know you got to move you in a good direction. So that's what I try to do. And I bring in lots of ladies, a lot of older ladies, but I'm getting a younger audience too. And I just show what it looks like if you really do go for your heart's desire. You said you were have the gift of teaching people worthiness. Well, many of
Mhm.
my guests didn't start out that way, and
Mhm.
we've had to do a lot of therapy work to get through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But we've done the work, and we did it for you and for your daughters. We went through it. We
Mhm.
healed those generational wounds, so you don't have to, so that you can give the good stuff right away to your kids. No, nobody's perfect, but still you're trying and you're doing your best. And I have people that are on their sixth time going around the world. I have
Mhm.
a woman
Wow.
that retired and bought a sailboat sight unseen,
Ah, great.
and there, I have a
Wow.
woman from Austria that 3 months of the year she gets in her Volkswagen van and travels, and she's got a little writing business that she takes to wherever she goes, puts her
Okay.
dog in her van, and away she goes. And what the women in my bracket have done everybody's needs for so
Mhm.
long, and that
Mhm.
really sounds like any women, but they didn't realize they were entitled to a turn. And
Yeah.
that's what I used a phrase, I want to make sure you had a chance to sit in the birthday girl's seat, to
Hmm.
be the important one, to have
Hmm.
your ideas valued and know it's okay to go for them.
And this is what your journey is. So,
Yeah,
you were an elementary school teacher. 10 years in, you couldn't ignore the voice inside anymore. So while you're teaching for another 15 years from that moment, you start retreats and are still raising 4 boys and being mom, wife, etc. at home too.
right.
Okay. And so the first set of retreats through the church, then, were they of a similar format? Were they,
Well,
to make money? Was it just a passion project?
it actually, uh, it was my tithe to the church.
Hmm.
I did it as a love gift for
Uh-huh.
myself. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't care how much I put into it. I
Okay.
just wanted to do it. Literally, excuse me, I get to swallow a second.
Of course.
It was started around a New Year's time, and I read this book called The Art of the Fresh Start. Doesn't that sound like a good New Year's kind of a book to
Mm-hmm.
read? And it just sparked an idea on me. And the geeky grandma loves digital graphics. I have
Okay.
lots of skills in there, desktop publishing skills.
Nice.
And I literally went to bed one night and woke up the next morning. I knew how to make one of those trifold booklet, like
Hmm.
what you get at a wedding, and
Yeah.
there's information on 3 sides and then 3 sides on the back.
Yeah.
If you've ever laid one out, it takes a lot of coordination to get things to line up.
Hmm.
But I woke up the next morning with a trifold
Sure.
brochure,
Yeah. Yeah.
totally designed except for one quote that I needed to get from the book, and I knew exactly where it was.
Oh my gosh.
And it's literally like a gift. I'm a person that has worked a lot to regain my voice. I was
Okay.
labeled shy in kindergarten, that kind of
Hmm.
story. But
Hmm.
I literally, physically, metaphorically have worked hard to regain my voice. And I'd be the last person you'd think would get up in front of a group of people. But that
Here we
was it.
are.
It
Yeah.
was it. And it was a gift. And I went down to my pastor and I presented it to her. And then I brought a friend along, and they both looked at me and they says, well, who's going to be the main speaker?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
says, I am. And they said, okay. And when I
Wow.
got all done, my pastor says, how do you feel? I says, I feel like I just had a baby. And she said, you did.
Oh my God, I love that. You came to life, right? And you pursued this. So is it fair to say then that as the Geeky Grandma stands now, it started back then and has
Yeah.
evolved and grown and was just because you needed to do it? It wasn't about anything else. You needed to
And
do it, and you knew that other women needed to receive and share in it.
I think what maybe prefaces that is when I had a hysterectomy, I ended up with 3 weeks at home before my kids came home for the summer.
Mhm.
And I spent that 3 weeks reading the book Seven Habits of the Highly Effective Person,
Okay,
because
great.
that was just the book I'd had in teacher training.
Okay.
And I just kept reading it, and for a period of about 20 years, I kept taking in and taking in and taking in all this information, every
Mhm.
self-help you could hear. And I had to do something with it. I was
Mhm.
so full
Yeah.
that I had to start giving it out. And I
Yeah,
guess
beautiful.
if you had to ask my heart's desire right now, I would say I am a pitcher, the kind you pour.
Yeah.
And I like to go somewhere and get filled up, like me going to a
Yeah.
retreat.
Yeah.
You get filled up, and I
Yeah.
can synthesize all that information. And then I go to a new group of people and I pour it out.
Yes.
And that's what I want to do, is to travel from place to place
Okay.
and to do that. And I love to learn. So I get to learn, and I
Right.
have the gift to teach it. So why
Right.
not?
That is, you just so beautifully articulated something that I can completely relate to. You put words and even, feelings and image to a very similar emotion that I have around filling up, but then it has to go somewhere, right? And it's so good for people to do that for themselves, but it can become so much more. And then you get new fulfillment that fills up your picture in different ways because you're collecting people's stories, hearts, energies, growth. And again, that giant collective pulsing love beat is
Yeah.
very uplifting, right? For everybody. Like we're tapped into another dimension almost of energy. That's
Yeah.
so amazing. So what does the retreat look like? This 25-hour retreat? That's so
25
brilliant. I
hour.
love it.
Yeah. Well, I kind of could craft it around a certain group of people. So when we started, we were able to come at supper time. We had to allow for people's travel time
Yeah,
for
yeah,
their
yeah.
work time. And so we start out with supper. When I first started, I wanted it to not be work for the women that came.
Yeah.
So we made our meals as simple as possible. We've
Mhm.
gathered to be making them a little healthier these days, but
Okay.
but we started like with pizza and a salad,
Okay.
real simple. And then we'd have a Friday night program. Sometimes I'd bring in a guest to
Mhm.
share a story, a testimonial, something of that sort. Sometimes I'd teach. It depended on what it was.
Mhm.
And then we would just have a fun kickback time. Like I said, we started
Mhm.
out not so healthy because we'd made Sundays and had a fun time.
Great.
And
Super.
and then we went to bed and we literally slept in the church. We either brought
Oh.
sleeping bags or slept on the pews or
Uh-huh.
cots or whatever
Okay.
we could find.
Okay.
And then the morning time we have I like to train my helpers that have been with me along the way. And
Okay.
when the early morning time we have an optional devotional time. So
Yeah.
I put somebody in there that just getting their feet wet, that needs a
Mhm.
crowd to present, short, not long, and it's optional. They can come in their pajamas or not
Mhm.
come. So that gives them a
Mhm.
smaller audience to work with.
Right.
And then we have a rotate who does breakfast or lunch, just puts it out because we've already brought all the food in.
Okay.
And we just need someone to put it out, maybe warm it up, but it's
Mhm.
already prepared. And
Okay.
I do the Saturday morning workshop, about a 3-hour workshop, and I
Mhm.
am a kinesthetic teacher. So
Okay.
all of my projects are hands on.
Mhm.
And as you do the project, the concept is being intaken by you. And
Mhm. Mhm.
it's a very good way to keep everybody interactive. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what we do. And then after lunch, I need a nap. So I just
Yes.
I give my all
My
that I
gosh.
had.
Yeah, totally.
There's nothing left.
Yeah.
Sometimes if it's a if somebody's prayed you in, it's like the energy is so overwhelming and you're
Yeah.
just spent.
Yeah.
And so I have a girl Friday take over the afternoon. And what we do in the afternoon, we used to make like a 9 square grid
Mhm.
and 3-hour sections, and you had three choices in each hour, and I let the people choose which one they wanted to do.
Okay.
And sometimes we'd have a somebody who demonstrated painting, and they'd come in and they'd take like a whole 3-hour block. And that was one of our favorite ones.
Mhm.
And then we had about an hour. We take your stuff back at the car, kind of chill down a few minutes, have
Mhm.
a supper, and then have a short closing to kind of show off your
Mhm.
work and to bring things as a finish. And I like to get them out the door by 7 so they can
Mhm.
be home by 9.
Mhm.
And
That's just such a beautiful rhythm. And what I love is that you recognize taking care of yourself through the day as well. So then you're really leading by example and, you know, saying you give yourself permission to rest when you need to rest. And even though this is your event and you're offering it, you know your capacity and you manage that accordingly. And then you bring in help so that you're not pressurizing or over delivering, that it takes days to recover after. And that is, maybe if I'm going to do this, I need to be, and I should, and and we get too attached via ego to what it's going to deliver. And you are already just like, oh, dudes, here's what I got for you, and here's what I don't got. And I'll catch up with you at supper.
And the people that have been retreating with me for years, they know I'm going to do it. They'll say, "Okay, get out of here. Well, yeah, we're ready for it." And I've done last couple of years. I've done like a mixed online and in person. We bring in some speakers online. We bring in some retreaters online, and we check that out, and we can do it. So
yeah. And the other, beautiful element to what you described is you're bringing along others with you to lead and to practice in a comfortable discomfort. Like you said, the smaller group, the optional group, the in pajamas group, where it could feel less intimidating because it's a very welcoming environment, right? Like, I don't think people in pajamas are very scary first thing in the morning. And it's great because it allows that woman to explore herself and, practice this. And when you take that afternoon time, you're offering the stage to somebody else. So it's really, you're facilitating and bringing the people together, but it's not about you. It's about what everybody's getting from it. And that detachment is very healthy and very giving, right? That's the distribution of the pitcher, like you talked about earlier. I love that.
So, yeah.
That's super. So then, like, how are you marketing Geeky Grandma? Are you on Facebook? Are you in classified ads? Is it word of mouth?
I'm in Facebook. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Mostly I've been advertising my Geeky Grandma. I just hired a new editor, and she now puts teasers up for every episode we do, which is kind of fun and neat. And the retreat is the major money maker at this point in time. But I'm also beginning to start doing summits and webinars, whatever they're called these days. And I actually got invited to International Women's Day event that's going on in Paris.
What?
And I could have gone to it, but I opted to do a virtual one. But maybe the next one I will actually go to, because that's what I wanted to do. To be able to go and kind of rub elbows with other women that do this, it's kind of amazing. I actually was part of a summit that was yesterday, and there were two co-leaders, and one of them's been in 100 countries, and one woman dropped $350K on being trained by master trainers around the world. So these are people that have mega invested in themselves, and now they're mega given out.
Amazing. And are you just meeting them through networking online? And congratulations, while she has a sip of water, congratulations, my dear. That is a beautiful invitation to have been able to participate in that event. And will it be available online? Is that something that we can share in this podcast episode?
I don't have the information to give out for that one just yet. That one's a little bit off yet, but if you've ever done human development, I am a projector. And projectors get invitations sent to them. So the webinar I was in yesterday, they reached out to me. The one in Paris, they reached out on me. Who knew me? I don't know. One of my retreats, my 3-page brochure, ended up printed in a church monthly newsletter that nobody knows who sent it there. They printed the whole thing.
Wow.
And that brought in one lady And that one lady also had another retreat at her church. I went there. She started a women's group that lasted for 20 years.
Wow.
So, and that's like, I didn't have anything to do with it. I didn't put it in that paper, but she came to one of the smallest ones we ever had, and she was just a fruit that was ready to burst. So
Amazing. Amazing. So the power of one, the power of showing up and of just following your heart.
yeah. And you know, I had to learn to find my voice, but now my talk is I have to learn to trust my voice.
Okay.
When you're quiet, lots goes on in your head and in your heart.
Yeah.
But it's time to put it out there and say it like you mean it, because you really do.
Yeah. And I think, you drop in, you listen, and then you share what you wish someone had shared with you.
Most of it is, these are the lessons I've learned along the way, and they helped me a lot. And if you can glean some and save yourself some more heartache that I went through, I'd be glad to do that for you.
Amazing. So how do people, they reach out to you through Facebook? You have a group that women can join?
We have a group called Empowering Women. You're welcome to join that. My email address is probably the fastest way to get to me, either that or Messenger. I check Messenger all the time. And you know, I had one gal reach out to me that she saw that I did retreats. She lived in Florida. I live in New York. We ended up working 6 months, and we were going to put on a retreat in Florida, and then COVID hit.
Okay.
So I can train you if you want to learn how to do a retreat.
Nice.
If you need a grandma, I've got my editor calling me Nana Jill. You know, whatever. I'm very flexible, and I have a lot of experience and a lot to give. And this is my time to use my legacy to pay it forward.
That's amazing. And you mentioned that you didn't go to Paris this time, but you probably would another time. So, you want to travel around, you want to be on the road a little bit. Do you want to talk about why you didn't go to Paris?
Well, actually, my husband and I are going on our first 2-week vacation during that window of time. And yes, I probably could have taken him to Paris with me, but I was been ready to do this, and then the pandemic hit, and now we're past that, and people are starting to go again. And I if an insurance salesman came to me and he wanted to say, da 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 da, and I said, I've been married, I have a house, I have the kids, my kids have graduated, my kids have married, my kids have their home, my kids have their kids, my house is paid for. I bought everything I want. All I want left is to travel and to help women. I've done the rest.
Yeah.
And,
yes. But still, you have, like, what's so beautiful about why you didn't go is you and your husband have plans, and you're honoring that relationship and not just saying yes to everything that comes in business because it's coming.
Yeah.
That's really sitting in your power and choosing what's going to feel right for your life, for your relationships, for what you want, and being able to offer it through webinar in order to preserve this sacred time for your relationship is a beautiful way of just leveraging and being so unattached to what that may or may not bring, because it seems like you just have the ultimate, like, abundance is coming from everywhere. So some yes, some no, some in between, whatever. I'm clear on what I'm doing, and I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a really nice position to be sitting in and to be teaching from, because that relaxed energy, that certainty of who you are leads the way and allows you to then I would imagine just be chill.
Yeah,
It's like,
I don't know who's going to be touched by what I say, and
yeah.
I don't have to direct it, or I feel like Johnny Appleseed. I put the seeds
Mhm,
out there, and if they grow,
mhm.
they grow. If they
If they
don't,
grow,
well,
they grow.
spend some more.
And it's so then would it be fair to say, Jill, that you're not really concerned about making a boatload of money?
No, not really, and that's
Yeah,
probably not a good business model. And I'm trying to work through some more things. It's not like I've figured out everything, but hey,
totally.
that's one I'm still working on.
But when we have clarity on what we want to offer and it's detached from money, then those two things can flow very nicely together. And there's no pressure around it, which it offers a lot of freedom to just do what you got to do because you're going to do it anyway.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do it anyway.
Going to do it
And
anyway.
and
And that again is like that permission of, you know, don't worry so much, especially with the wisdom that you can bring, having lived the life and having this um this passion, this gift brewing for so long. Finding a way to just get it out for the sake of it gives it space to be its own being, right? You're not suffocating it, you're not dependent on
well,
it.
and that extra few years of teaching
Yeah,
allowed me this
yeah,
freedom.
yeah. So sometimes we're like, oh, we got to quit our job now so that we can go all in on the business. But you're showing that there's always time. There's always time for it. And there's ways of doing it that don't put you under too much pressure or, too much fire, that when you have children and bills and things like that, you can prepare and still play in that
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah, I was building it up
Yeah,
into the level I could at that
exploring it,
time.
getting to know yourself, filling your picture so that when you were ready to really start interacting with people, you had a good skill set and a good confidence to go further and further all in. And all of that was building over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. So what's coming in for you for 2023? These retreats, like, are they going to be a hybrid? You're doing some in person? What's that looking
Um,
like?
I'm I'm what's happening this time is I have more speakers of higher levels coming into to co-retreat with me.
Okay.
It's still I'm still in charge of it,
Mhm,
but I brought in a gal that's doing these huge monster events. She's
mhm,
going to be my Friday night speaker. I
mhm.
have somebody coming, two gals from Massachusetts that are coming in. I've got the gal from Florida doing a lesson. So they're working in the structure that I created,
Right.
but now we're getting higher level information. I could only take them so high, so
Okay.
I'm bringing in people that can pull us higher. And in the meantime, I'm going to look for more opportunities for webinars, and
Mhm.
my podcast is being heard. We're almost up to 40 episodes, and we're in 18 countries so far.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. And how old is the podcast?
2.5 years,
Yeah,
but
great.
really it's taken off like the last
Yeah,
8 months.
yeah, amazing. Very exciting. So now it sounds like you're giving yourself space to get into creating the retreats without having to be the retreat. You're filling up other people's pictures and still filling up your own. So who knows what more could come for you as a
Well, I'm
result.
hoping to take those retreats on the road.
Yeah, great. Okay.
So
That's wonderful. Super exciting, Jill. I mean, I love your energy. You're just so relaxed and comfortable with who you are and what you're doing, and playing in the creative space, and very clear on what you're doing, even if it's not exactly what you thought, which we didn't particularly articulate, I don't think, which was to support women as they retire for that next stage, but you are living that example. And
Right.
whether those are the women you're interacting with or not, you're definitely planting your flag on the map and showing that this is what's possible in retirement. And I think that's going to get noticed for sure.
Yeah. So I thank the young moms out there. You know, the world is kind of a mess, but women need to be with other women, and there's something that can't happen with just a couple. Women with women, the women have a special need to be in companionship.
Yeah.
We were built to support each other,
Mhm.
and we want to make sure that this generation is giving back to you, and we're just so thrilled that you're giving to your daughters so early.
That is just such a beautiful, beautiful way to wrap up this conversation, Jill. Really, I really feel that. Thank you, you wise, sage, amazing, geeky grandma. You are just so delightful. So, and you're
Thank you
kicking
so
ass.
much.
Badass grandma over here, people.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been
Oh,
fun.
thanks for joining me. And I'll drop all the information about you in the show notes so people can come and find you. And thanks for spending the morning with me. And I look forward to seeing you online and seeing what comes for you in this year and further along.
Thank you very much.